Back and forth he paced. Something was happening to him. He could feel it. Tomas felt trapped inside his own body. An urge beyond his control began to dominate his thoughts. He was allowing the monster to take over. Straightening his body and elongating his already tall stature, his body began to feel alive, intoxicated with power, dominance, and most of all strength. He liked this feeling. It felt good, almost as if he were breathing in new life. Hello, welcome to In My Words. The book I am reading from is titled The Monster We Call Dad by D.A. Riles. This book is not intended for young readers. After each reading session, I will briefly give information about a chosen plant. I hope through my words you will gain insight, knowledge, and a deeper appreciation and understanding of this mysterious and intricate world. Though the road may be long and hard, compassion and beauty can be gained through the enjoyment of nature and experiencing its wondrous gifts. Thank you for joining me. May your soul find freedom, and may your love sprout wings and spread through the universe. Epilogue. Deep within every soul is a soul within, be it good or evil. Thomas Schultz lives with both. The Schultz children, born from Thomas and Jane, are brought into a house of terror and fear, each wanting to escape from their forced reality. They learn to adapt to the violent eruptions of anger caused by their father. Jane, submissive and meek, follows her husband into the world of pain, as the household is torn apart by the brutality of Thomas's demented ways. Chapter 1. The Badlands. It was a beautiful day in the Badlands of South Dakota. Hills loomed in the distance as the sun cast hues of purple and orange across its vast expanse. A lone eagle soars high above. A growing family was vacationing there. Jane and Thomas had 2 sons, a daughter, and a baby on the way. Jane and Thomas were looking out over the flat-topped mountains as Joe, their oldest son, led his 2 younger siblings onto the small footpaths along the hills which looked like mountains. The warmth of the day allowed the children to wear shorts and t-shirts. Although the paths were barely 2 feet wide, they had been used many times by others who wanted to venture further into the rock-covered region. As the 3 children walked along the path, it began to narrow. A sheer rock wall was on the left side, but on the right was a deep gorge which came to an abrupt halt of jagged boulders at its bottom. "Joe, you kids get back here before you fall," Mom yelled, seeing the perilous trek in which the children were heading. Carefully, the 3 children turned around, and now the 2 younger children were in front of Joe. On the way back to their mom, Joe almost did fall. His body slim, his footsteps small, the ledge upon which he was walking was narrow. Tiny pebbles began to slide across his path. His foot slipped. As it did, the boy reached out. A lone branch was wedged within the crack of the rock wall. Fortunately for Joe, he was able to grasp the limb and keep his balance. The 2 younger children didn't see what was taking place behind them and continued on to safer ground. Coming back to Mom and feeling embarrassed for his error, the young boy blushed. Joe was fortunate that Dad didn't see his near-death event, for he would have had more than the stern look which Mom gave. Jane didn't want to go on this family vacation that Thomas insisted on, but as a dutiful wife she did. She was 4 months pregnant at the time and didn't feel up to a vacation, especially in an area with a higher altitude than she was used to. She didn't know if the lack of oxygen would affect the baby she carried inside of her. Husband and wife were both the same age, but you would never have been able to tell. For being only 23 years of age, Jane was a mere shell of what she once was, much too thin to be carrying another life inside of her. The maternity clothes which she wore were her regular clothes, but with alterations, for Thomas didn't allow his wife to spend money on such frivolous items. Nearing the end of their vacation, Mom and Dad began to argue. No one really knew why some of the arguments happened. They just did. It was normal. Amidst the breathtaking backdrop, the argument ensued as the frightened children huddled together for security. They could feel the power of his emotion. Would it come out, they wondered? Seeing Dad's body change, the helpless children were unable to control their quivering bodies, even though the day was warm. Dad's face began to redden as his demanding words seeped out through gritted teeth. "Get in the effing car!" His words were thick with venom as he glared at his cowering wife. "I feel sick. I need a moment." Jane pleaded with her husband as her thin face began to pale. Hanging her head in shame and sickness, she knew she had to do as she was told, but she just couldn't right now. "I told you to get in the effing car," he stormed at his quivering wife, standing only a few feet in front of him. Back and forth he paced. Something was happening to him. He could feel it. Tomas felt trapped inside his own body. An urge beyond his control began to dominate his thoughts. He was allowing the monster to take over. Straightening his body and elongating his already tall stature, his body began to feel alive, intoxicated with power, dominance, and most of all, strength. He liked this feeling. It felt good, almost as if he were breathing in new life. Not daring to look her husband in the eyes, Jane peeked up through veiled, thick black lashes, her body trembling, knowing she was in trouble. She prepared herself to beg for mercy, but a feeling came over her body. Bile built up in the back of her throat. Her stomach rumbled with ferocity. The young woman wasn't able to stop the vomit that just then spewed from her, splattering near the ground where Tomas walked. "You effing bee!" Tomas raged, seeing strands of vomit dripping from the innocent woman's lips. This enraged him even further as he moved towards his diminutive wife. Puffing up his chest, snaking out his long, wiry appendage, Tomas thrust for the young woman, snaring her hair with his metamorphosed arm. The children saw the monster forming, changing, contorting, and mutating into something hideous. Dad's size grew. He was once again something they did not recognize. Wanting to scream in horror, all they could do was watch and hope the monster didn't attack its prey. But it did happen. Twisting Jane's baby-fine hair in his hand, he roared in a demonic tone, "I'll teach you, you piece of S!" Yanking her toward him, he raised an ogre-like foot, shouting, "You did that on purpose!" The monster's nostrils flared, its eyes bulged with fierce intensity as he flung the hapless woman to the ground, saying, "You worthless piece of crap." All right, well, now on to something lighter. Let's go to the plants. For today's plant, we will be discussing the striped corn plant. There is a difference between the striped corn plant and the Victorian corn plant. The striped corn plant has dark green on either side with lighter color in the center, and the Victorian corn plant has light on either side and dark in the center. The botanical name for the striped corn plant is Dracaena fragrans massingina. The botanical name for the Victorian corn plant is Dracaena fragrans victoria. The striped corn plant grows to a height of approximately 8 feet or 240 centimeters, 2.4 meters, and a width of 1 to 3 feet, approximately 1 meter. The temperature ranges from 65 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, or 18 degrees Celsius to 27 degrees Celsius. The low is 45 degrees Fahrenheit, 7 degrees Celsius. The leaves are large, long, and glossy. The stalk looks rather like a tree trunk, or possibly even looks similar to a palm stalk. This plant adds oxygen to the air, as do all plants. However, this one adds it more efficiently. This plant is also considered to be low maintenance, which I myself have found to be the case. And as you can see with the pictures that are on the screen, that is my plant that I have here at home. So for the striped corn plant and the Victorian corn plant, they are basically the same, basically grow the same height and width. They both like medium light. It's better if they have medium light. They can handle low light, but medium light is much better for them. You should always allow potting mixture to dry out and between waterings. This will help it from becoming waterlogged. That's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed the reading and the plant information. Please join me again next week. Please like, share, subscribe, and next week I will highlight another plant and continue reading. If you would like to read along with me, you may pick up The Monster We Call Dad by D.A. Riles at Amazon.com. I look forward to having you join me next week.